Hello everyone, welcome to week 10. I have seen and I know everyone is having a bit of a struggle with the JavaScript assignments, and especially the topics. I know for beginners, arrays, loops, and functions could be a bit challenging. So that's why this week we are going to be revising some of the concepts that we learned. So it's basically again on arrays and loops, but it's going to be a revision. It's going to be a short one because we're going to be discussing one example, and hopefully it should help in your assignment. I've seen the assignment. It's pretty much on the same line. So if you have attended like last week's recitation and if you do this one, I think you should probably have all the concepts that you need to do this week's assignment and not struggle much with it. So keeping that in mind, let's get started. So that is the agenda for today, revising JavaScript arrays and loops. This time we're going to be doing it in a different way. So rather than doing it in HTML, I'm going to show you a new code, but it's easily transferable. That is, whatever we are going to be doing there is going to be inside a script tag. Okay. So let's do. So please do this with me. And it's best, the best way to use this recitation would be like practice everything yourself. I'm gonna give you some time and for each task and try to do that. And also, once you have the solution, just don't like copy it and run it. Try playing around with it. So even if it works, try making some changes and see like what it does, how it does, change some value to other. Does it give you an error, or like how does it make it run? So feel free to play with the solution. That's how you like learn like what mistakes can you make. Because if you do something from scratch, then you don't know, you make a mistake, but you don't know what that mistake was. So if you have like already a solution, you can make a change and see, oh, now it's not working. I did this wrong, and you remove it and it works. So like that is a good learning way, and that will help you like overcome the errors that you might have done in previous assignment, and like you will not repeat them again. So open js.do on your browser. So it's an online JavaScript editor. So it should look like this. So we'll just remove the code that is already there. This is a sample example. If you want, you can go through it, or we don't need it for this recitation. We're going to be creating our own example. So let's just remove this. And after you do that, have a script tag. So basically, if you want to run it in HTML, everything would be same. Just like we are just writing the part inside the script tag here. Okay, we're not having like head body. You can easily add this to any HTML file, just like write head body, create that what was that? Create that structure, or what is it called? The sample file that we had, the skeleton file we had for HTML, and just add it there, and it should work on your web page in the same way. There's just a new tool to practice JavaScript, so that's why we are using it. Okay, so once you have deleted it, and yeah, just also let's clear that. So how do you run this? You just click on run code and this. So now it's a blank screen, and now we're gonna be starting our functions. So defining a JavaScript function. So firstly, we need a function to calculate company's profit. Hope you have not forgotten about functions. You should be using them in your assignments. And I know it's 2 weeks since we last heard of functions, but yeah. Going back to functions, we need a function, and it's a simple function. You just need to calculate profit. You will be given revenues and expenses, and the profit, as you know, is revenues minus expenses. And test the function by calling it inside document.write. So you just have to, you can use document.write inside it as you use in the script tag, because it's basically a script tag again. And the result should be displayed on the web page. So pause the video here for a moment and try this on your own. This should be fairly easy for you. So the function will take in revenues and expenses. That is two inputs it will take, and it will return the profit. You can define revenues and profits, anything, revenues and expenses, whatever you want, and try creating this function. Okay. So if you have tried it, let me do this. So function, let's say calc profit, and it takes in two inputs, revenues and expenses. So this is the how you define a function. Now we need to return profit. So first we should have profit somewhere. So we can say variable profit equal to 0. So we are just declaring and defining the profit. So, and we need to, what's the output of the function is we need to return the calculated profit. We have not calculated it yet, but we want to return it. So this will be a return. Now how to calculate the profit? It should be fairly simple. Profit is equal to revenues minus expenses. And this should ideally work. And how to call the function? So we will just do document dot write, and let's say we calculate our function. So we call our function calc profit, and we give it some revenues and expenses. So let's say if the revenue is 10 and the expenses are 5. So what should our profit be? That's 5. If it's 6, it will be, our profit will be 4. If it's 11, our profit will be negative. That means we have a loss of 1. Okay. So I hope this much is clear to you. This should be fairly simple, and we're going to be extending it more in the example. So this was an easy function and you have tested it. Now let's go to the next part. Also, one more side note. So if you want like some kind of HTML formatting to be added to your JavaScript code, we know that we cannot use tags inside this, right? You might have received a lot of errors while using tags inside JavaScript because you forgot that you are inside a script tag. I've seen that in many people's assignment. So one way you can use it is use it in double quotes. So I'll show you how to do that. So this is an H1 tag. If you forgot, it is a heading tag. And let's just close it. Oops. And if you run it now, so you see this comes as a heading. So you can apply formatting. You can use paragraph tag here or any type like span if you want to change the formatting or anything, or even tables, lists. The tags you can use in double quotes in document.write, so it will format that accordingly. Okay. So now we have that. Now we want another function, and the another function is to calculate taxes. The tax rate is set to 20% and it is 20% of the profit. So how to do that? You can read the instructions. And the one thing that we want is if the profit is negative, the tax would be 0 because you do not tax on losses, right? So we want this condition, like if we have some negative profit, that is we have a loss, you don't apply any tax to that and you just have the value of tax as 0 and delete the first. Okay. And then we'll have to test the function. So try it out on your own. Take a few minutes, attempt it, and this should be simple, as in you just need its input should be profit and its output should be tax. Also, what you might have to use inside it is an if statement, because if the profit is negative, then you want your tax to be 0. Okay. So take a few minutes, try it out. And if you have tried it out, let's do this. So firstly, let's have the tax rate and let it be equal to, it's equal to 0.2, that is 20%. Now we'll do function that is calculate tax. and this takes in the profit. And what do we want to do? So we want to return tax. So let's say tax is initially 0 and have that as an variables. My bad. Okay. So our tax is 0. So now we want to calculate the tax only if the profit is not negative, or if only if you have a profit and not a loss. So we'll do if profit is greater than 0. In that case, we want tax is equal to 0.2, or not 0.2, because the tax rate might change at any time. So when we change the variable, we'll use the variable here, and tax rate into profit. This will be our tax. And if it's negative, then it will remain 0 as we initialized it. And finally, we'll just return our tax. Let's test it. So instead of this function, let's call calculate tax. Note that it won't take 2 inputs, it will only take 1 input. So let's say the profit is 5. Or for easier calculation, if the profit is 10, the tax would be 2. If it's 5, it would be 1. If it's something negative, if it's negative 2, it is 0. So you see our function is working. So these are our two functions that we are going to be needing. And we see that both of them are working. So far so good. And now let's head on to the next thing. Now we'll go to the fun part, which is the arrays and the functions. And let's get started. So I have written down the most of the code for you, so you'll have everything, but be sure to try it on your own. So now we have a company and we want to fill in its basically a spreadsheet, or I don't know the business term for it, so feel free to comment it. Uh, so we need to do some calculations and we want to generate a report similar to the report that you have in your assignment. So this company has 4 divisions: north, east, west, and south, and we have the revenues and expenses for each of the division. So if you remember arrays, so this is it's a size array of size 4. Its indexing will be from 0, 1, 2, 3, because arrays addresses starts from 0. So the north division has 25 revenue and its expense is 16. So this is it. And if you want to take a guess, what we also want to do is calculate the profit and calculate the tax for each division. How we'll do it is, let's see, but for starters, just copy this these 3 arrays, and let's have them on top. So we have our arrays that we need. So once you are done till here, now we'll use loops, and that will be used to process the array. And what we want is, we want a table, and we want that table to display like every division. So the table will have 5 uh, 4 rows and 5 columns. So for each row for each division, and each column will have, like, first column will be the name, second will be revenues, third will be expenses, fourth would be the profit of that division, and fifth would be the tax for that division. So simple enough, we already have all those things. We have our functions for tax and profit already, so we'll just use them. And let's delete any of the unnecessary stuff that we have. So let's just remove this document.write statement. So don't worry, I'll give you the format. So let's say this. So let's copy this. So go ahead and copy this. Oops. we'll paste it here. Let's see running it. So see, it starts, it's a tax report. Okay, and we just have the time. This is, I think you need this in your assignment as well. To create a new date, just create a variable and use the function date. It will give you today's date and time, and we'll just use a document.write to write in the date. Okay. Okay. So now we want to create the body of the table. So let's include this code as well. So I'll get to what the code is, but these were like the normal. So you see, in double quotes, we can have whatever we want to write, and we can use the tags as well, like H1, H2, H3, like we used it previously. And now we'll start the creation of our table. We run the code. So you see, we have our table, like at least a body we want to fill in this table now. That's our main task. And this is like the tax report per division. So I think, so these three values of these three columns we already have in our array. So if we just print them, that would be like all set and go. Also, like to fill these two columns, we need to use our two functions, that is calculate profit. Once we get the profit from this function, we'll provide that profit into the tax function. So see, we are using two functions in tandem. We give our revenues, expenses, calculate the profit, take that profit, put it into the second function, get the tax. Okay. And we have to do it for every division. And if you see, like once you, whenever you have a task that you have to do like for everything, or like for every element in anywhere, or like it has some kind of repetition. If the word every comes to mind when you think of a solution to a problem, then probably most of the time the answer is you have to use loops. Okay. So we'll have to loop across these three arrays, and for each division, we'll have to give the revenue, expenses, and fill in this report. Okay. Revenue, expenses, this. So to make it more clear, let's go through the code once. So we create using the document.write. We create the table here in JavaScript. We use the caption tag. Now we use table row, and let's keep this in a separate line to make the readability easier. So you see, we can use, this is the table heading tag. If you don't remember, so we have used these five headings, th. So we are using the tags inside JavaScript now, but it's a different way to use them in double quotes. And if you see, like the fun part about this is like, so to use HTML inside JavaScript, we have to use double quotes and put in the HTML tags there. And conversely, where if you remember when we were doing fields and everything, buttons and all, in there, in the tags of process button in double quotes, we used to put our JavaScript code in. So whenever we are using something in the other language or other framework, we do it in double quotes. And it's working both ways for us, in JavaScript as well as HTML. Okay. So coming back to the problem. So this is a function, or maybe just try it out. I've told you the structure, so take a few minutes and try to fill in the table. So loop across it, maybe not in the correct format, but at least create a loop which runs 4 times, or which is like the size of the arrays, and calculates profit, feeds that profit to tax, and gets the tax. And see if you can put it in a table format. So first try to make things work, like get everything, profit and tax, and then see if you can fill it in the table. So pause the video here and try this on your own. Okay, so if you're back, let's see. And let's just yeah. So let's see what we have to do. So we have our for loop. How many times it should run? It should run 4 times, or whatever the however many divisions that we have. So we do divisions dot length. If you remember, the dot length function gives us the size of the array, and to go through every time, our counter just increases by 1. So it starts from 0 and goes to 3. And this is what the addresses are here. So this will go through every division once, and that's how we want our rows, right? For example, when it's at 0, it will only concern the north division, the revenue 25, and this expense 16. So we can directly fill them in. So we create a row. So every time we start the loop, because every division we want in a different row, then the first entry that we want to fill is the division name, and that is at divisions of I, that is the 0th ID, so north in this case. Then so that will be the first entry here in the first row. Second entry would be revenue, so just put in revenues of 0, so 25, expenses 16. Now for the next table data, we need profit, and we just do calculate profit. We call our function here, pass it the revenue and expenses of the north division, and see in the first cycle it's on 0, so it's only north division, and that will fill here. And once we have the profit, we call the function again, so this will return profit, and it's getting passed into the calc tags. Okay, so just simple, like, or you can just have a variable here, variable called profit, which stores the calculate profit, and we can just pass that profit into the calculate tax function. So both ways it's fine. And we already have tax rate, so okay, our function doesn't take in tax rate, so we don't need that because we have a global variable, so this should be fine. And lastly, don't forget to close your row, because for the next division we want everything in the new row. Okay, so let's see if that works. And you see this works, and we see our function is working. As if the profit is negative, our tax is 0, so all of our requirements are satisfied. And this would, as I told you, this would be a short one. So this is all for today. This is one example, and hope this helps you out in your assignment. And let me know if you have any doubts or any questions, comments, or concerns. And don't forget to fill out the weekly interaction form or the attendance form. And thank you. And I'll see you guys next week.